For my midterm, I wanted to do the IP rights around a game called A Kingdom for Keflings. I'll explain why in just a second. A Kingdom from Keflings is a video game you could download from either Xbox Live or on the Microsoft Cloud. Basically, you kind of play this kind of giant overlord sort of creature that's way bigger than everybody else, and it's your job to help build the kingdom or build a castle. You have these little minions called Keflings that go around and experience trouble and collect things for you and want you to go on quests and help them out. You're kind of like their big protector. If anybody knows anything about video games, kind of like Black and White, where you have a big creature that kind of can protect or destroy. Kind of the same thing here. One of the things that really stood out on this game was that you were allowed to use your Xbox Live avatar. So a lot of people spent time when Xbox 360 came out developing an avatar. And there are really few games that actually use it. And most of those were games around the Kinect, where you could kind of control what they were doing. This is a game which you just use a controller and you were an actual player character in it. Apologize for that. That's going to be annoying. That was kind of the biggest standout of this game. The reason I selected this game is the studio's local here. I happen to have some friends that work there. I know one of the programmers. I know one of the guys that did a lot of the music and a lot of the game design there. I had a bunch of friends that went there and did a QA for him for a while, and actually met the CEO, Steve Taylor, and we did a global game jam together. So I've applied there once a few years ago. They weren't willing to pay what I was currently getting paid, so we decided to kind of part ways at that point in time. But so I have some contacts there. When I asked my friends, hey, who would I want to talk to about the copyrights that are owned by, and the IP rights that are owned by the studio, which is Wahoo Studios, they said Steve Taylor would be one, and then their CFO, Lane Kariyama. Basically, time constraints on both sides. I'm working on some pretty heavy stuff at work where I'm don't really have a lot of spare time. They're currently in a cycle now where they didn't have a lot of spare time that matched up with mine. So I had a little survey. I just emailed them really quick and said, hey, I'm doing this for school. I didn't want to, I don't want to bother you. I kind of want to know, what are the rights that you guys have, and what did you do? So the first thing was it was copyrighted by Wahoo Studio upon its release. Copyright protects any of the art, the programming, the music, the code, the user interface, pretty much the game mechanics. So granted, game mechanics are kind of open for a lot of people to interpret, but playing that game exactly the way they do is covered in part of their copyright. You couldn't have another game called a Schmingdom for Snefflings without getting in trouble. As far as the copyright, they actually put a trademark on A Kingdom for Keflings to be a brand name. You can actually download. They have a sequel, which is A World of Keflings, and you can actually go and from their studio directly you can buy a Kefling, just kind of a brand name that's out there, just to protect it so somebody wasn't trying to rip them off in that use. Nobody else can use the word Keflings in their games without paying a royalty fee. It's all proprietary to them. It also kind of gives them the license, the right to license that. So in case somebody says, hey, I really like your game, we'd like to expand on it or make one of our own, partnership can be worked out where they can actually obtain financial gain by licensing Keflings with having that trademark. I did have to question them. I had a question about, do you guys have any patents in order to protect your work or anything like that? They said they did not do anything that, as far as their code goes, that is completely outside of the normal from game development. Obviously, the code itself is copyrighted, but there was no new breakthrough. There was no patent to be filed. the use of the avatar in game in the way that it was is actually available through Microsoft's suite. You can actually build that if you have the XNA Studio and you know how to code. You can actually access that kind of feature on the Xbox itself. So they really didn't have anything that was patentable. There was no new processes, just kind of standard that way. So pretty much the copyright on the game just covers everything that they needed to cover there. Wahoo's has been very active building relationships. They are a small independent company, but they've been building a lot of relationships with Sony and Microsoft, Nintendo in order to maximize their ROI. So they have a few other games that are outside this one specifically. When I was looking at this one, I realized it was mostly a Microsoft thing, where they've been able to make a second game from it, and that's about as far as it goes. And Microsoft does tend to market this game. World of Keflings a few months ago was one of the free games that Microsoft was offering, just to kind of get people involved and interested in the game. But they do have other games in which they've been able to take to the Sony and Nintendo platforms and also in PC that continue to get people to come in to their company. And I know they were on some additional games, things like Disney Infinity game. They were asked to help out. They also have an EA studio here locally that they've been asked to give resources and help make other games. And also Epic Games has a studio here called Chair, another ones that make it Infinity Blade. If anybody's ever played that one, and they were asked to help out. So being a small independent company, they've really set a name for themselves. The Kingdom of Keflings was their first major game to come out, and has actually enabled them to make more and more games and given them a reputation for building very solid, unique games, which is, I mean, to me is really maximize that ROI. As far as using their IP rights to do it, they've never really had a problem with anybody trying to copy their games. They are extremely unique, and it's kind of a niche market with the people that buy them. So they've never really had any court cases or anything like that. But because of their games are so good, and they've kind of got a reputation built, and then they have protected their games through copyright, they've been able to become very successful. So that's pretty much the overview of the group that I had. So I hope that answers all the questions.